I'll present it as mine. No one reads Slack threads anyway. He said it like he was handing me my own obituary. That line wasn't screamed across a boardroom. It was a DM at 11:03 p.m. after I'd pushed the last commit before bedtime. He used the dumb face emoji. He also typed, "By Christmas, I'll be sipping champagne in Tuscany with your money." He was being dramatic, sure, but he wasn't joking. Have you ever had someone take credit for months of your work with the same casual confidence they used to steal office lunches? Tell me in the comments, because for 2 years, that was my life at Scalewell, a Seattle-based health tech startup with more ambition than process. And what happened next? Little did they know, I had every Slack timestamp, every Git diff, and a stubborn sense of fairness that doesn't quit. It started small. I was a product engineer on a cross-functional team. My mornings were coffee, Zoom stand-ups, and Notion pages full of features. Derek, the antagonist you'll want to hate, was a senior product lead with a talent for delegating and an appetite for applause. He wore an Armani jacket, drove a Model 3, and called himself a strategic generalist. He also had the worst work ethic on the team. "Can you take the client sync today? I've got back-to-back," he'd say. Every Friday afternoon, he'd show up for the demo, flash a smile, and take credit for the roadmap he'd never written. On our last big project, the one that would land us a $1.2 million contract with an East Coast provider, I architected the whole solution. Interface flows, back-end schema, the API contract. I lived in the code for 3 months. I filed the PRs. I wrote the post-mortem drafts. Then the award season began. End of quarter, all hands. Derek stood up in front of 300 employees and presented our feature like it was his magnum opus. "I want to call out Derek for the patient sync feature. Absolutely killer work," our CEO said, and people clapped. Someone took a photo that made it to LinkedIn. Derek posted the slide with the caption, "Proud to lead the patient sync initiative that will transform care." He got congratulatory DMs from execs. I sat there with my lunch cooling and a weird hollowness like I'd been outplayed in a game I didn't know we were playing. "You should have taken the presentation," my manager shrugged later. "You had the code, but Derek has the face for the room." But then, I had no idea what I was about to discover. A thing to know about modern startups: nothing disappears completely. Slack saves metadata. GitHub logs authorship. Email headers have timestamps. I wasn't thinking revenge at first. I wanted recognition, maybe a promotion. I wanted a manager who'd say, "You did that, we see you." When that didn't come, I started keeping quiet copies, screenshots of discussions, links to PRs, archived emails, just in case. Then one night, while looking for a specific timestamp to reference in a retrospective, I stumbled on an odd thread. Derek had been asking our contractor, a junior front-end dev named Anu, for the panel mockups at 9:12 a.m. on April 3rd. The contractor replied, "Here are the mockups. I made them based on Jamie's spec." Jamie was me. I opened more threads. There were 47 deleted messages in a channel nobody bothered to archive. Slack will show the message deleted placeholder when someone removes things, and I saw enough holes to make me suspicious. "You kept copies?" my friend Marco asked when I showed him the screenshots over beers in Ballard. "Why didn't you speak up earlier?" "I thought I'd be petty," I said, "or maybe I'm just lazy when it comes to conflict." But I started to put things together. You won't believe what I found next. A cascade of DMs where Derek said in plain text, "Just put it in the deck as my work. No one reads the threads. I'll take care of the press." He even messaged our then business lead, "I'm ready to present next week. The client will love my version." There it was, in black and white, with timestamps. I sat with the evidence for 2 sleepless nights. I printed PDFs. I copied Git blame outputs showing I offered the key functions. I assembled client emails where the hospital's director thanked Jamie and the engineering team. I had the Notion page with the original spec where I wrote, "Proposed by Jamie Clark. Do not edit without consent." I had, in total, 47 deleted Slack messages that mattered. Not a sexy statistic, but it would be scandalous in a small company where reputations run on optics. What would you do if your boss congratulated someone else for your late nights? Would you confront them privately, blow the whistle to HR, or sit back and let the LinkedIn posts do the talking? I asked myself that question over and over. I chose the middle road. I wanted justice that couldn't be dismissed. I wanted truth that would fit on a slide. But I had no idea what I was about to discover about how thin corporate justice can be. When I first took the evidence to HR, their response was bureaucratic and painful. "We need a complaint in writing," said Lydia from People Ops. "We also need confirmation that you're the owner of the IP." Sounds reasonable, right? But the EVP had publicly praised Derek for leadership during investor meetings. The execs loved his charisma. HR's neutrality felt more like a slow gate. "Show us the messages, the commits, and we can investigate," Lydia said. I sent a zip file that looked like a confession. Slack exports, commit diffs, timestamps, client emails. The HR rep forwarded it to legal, standard, and then to Derek's manager. The reply came back quick and passive. "We appreciate the materials. We'll look into it." 3 days later, Derek sent a Slack DM that should have sent chills down my spine. "Hey, Jamie. I heard you've been digging. Chill. I can make this go away. You're a smart guy. Don't make this personal." "I'm not going to be bought," I typed back. "This isn't about money. It's about recognition." He responded with a line that's burned in my memory. "You're too stupid to even see what's coming." At that point, I had to decide between loud and legal. I wanted the public record. I wanted a moment where the whole company would see the truth at once. I wanted Derek to understand his arrogance had limits. So I started planning a presentation. Not the polished corporate kind, but a forensic one. This was my plan. Get time at the next all hands. Show the Slack threads side by side with GitHub commits and client emails. Let timestamps do the talking. Expose the 47 deleted messages in full. Make it undeniable. It was audacious. It was risky. It would humiliate Derek. But I told myself it would clean the rot for everyone else. My ally was unexpected. Margaret Chen, in-house counsel. She's sharp, 40-something, with zero patience for performative leadership. I met her for coffee in Pioneer Square. "You have smoking evidence," she said, flipping through the PDFs. "If we take it public in an all hands, it needs to be framed as a compliance matter, not a personal attack. HR will freak if it's a spectacle. Also, and this is important, we need to make sure we don't violate any privacy laws with those DMs." "That's fine," I said. "I don't want to break the law. I want to break the lie." She agreed to help on conditions. We do it through a formal channel. We get the logs exported by IT, and she would sit next to me in the meeting. "You will almost certainly have pushback," she warned. "There will be 3 moments where this looks like it's going to fail. Be prepared." She was right. Moment 1. IT told us the Slack export didn't include deleted messages. Slack's message deletion is client-side in places, the SRE told us. We might be out of luck. I felt the 4 drop. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pictured Derek's smug smile forever. But then Margaret requested a workspace admin audit, and the compliance officer found server-side logs that retained message bodies for a limited retention period. 47 matches. The data team pulled them. We had them again. The first near fail was averted. Moment 2. Derek's manager cornered me. "If you go public with this at an all hands, you're going to be branded dramatic. We need you to follow process," she said. "Do you want to be the person who broke team trust?" The veiled threat was clear. I could be the one who derailed my career. For a person with student loans and a mortgage in West Seattle, that mattered. "What if HR does nothing?" I asked. "What if he keeps getting promotions?" "Then you either escalate or you leave," she answered coldly. It felt like she was choosing sides. For a few gut-wrenching hours, I considered walking away, letting it go. That would have been easier and safer. But I had pictures in a folder. Justice is not always safe. I decided to continue. I couldn't betray the younger engineers who'd watched Derek take raises based on their code. Moment 3. On the day of the all hands, The CEO cut our agenda. "We have a tight schedule today," she said. "No extra presentations." My chest tightened. This was the worst-case scenario. I pictured Derek getting another round of applause while I sat quietly in my chair. But Margaret had one more card. She'd prepared a feature retrospective segment under the guise of knowledge sharing. She'd convinced the head of engineering to allocate 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a small thing. It's not supposed to topple hierarchies, but 5 minutes in front of 300 people with evidence is a lifetime. "You realize this will get messy," Margaret said as we sat in the green room, my laptop open and slides queued. "There will be whispers, HR will take notes, and Derek will try to pivot to damage control. Don't get emotional on stage." "Do you think he'll beg?" I asked. People who build empires on gaslighting often do. They haven't rehearsed humility. The all hands was in our downtown Seattle auditorium. Derek arrived in a navy suit, smiling. He started his segment 3 minutes before mine. The plan was to have him set the tone, then I'd do my retrospective. He talked about vision, leadership, the patient-first feature. He got the applause. I watched the applause expire and felt my throat close. My slide deck was straightforward. A timeline, Slack excerpts, GitHub commits, client emails, and a final screenshot labeled 47 deleted messages. The room was dim when I took the stage for my allotted 5 minutes. I started with a simple line. "I wrote the spec for the patient sync feature, and I want to walk you through how it came together." Someone in the crowd laughed, the kind of disbelief that is part shock and part confusion. I powered through. I read messages aloud. I showed Git blame. I said, "This commit by J. Clark at 2:07 a.m. on March 12th introduced the serialization that the client insisted was necessary." Derek's slide uses the same terminology. I clicked to the Slack DM. "Here," I said, and the room went still. Derek's arrogance looked like a mask that suddenly didn't fit. He leaned forward, as if someone had slapped him. The Slack message scrolled across the screen. "Derek, I'll present this as mine. No one reads the threads anyway. Derek, by Christmas, I'll be sipping champagne in Tuscany with your money." I read the lines out loud. "He told a colleague to credit him," I said. Then he deleted the messages. There are 47 deletions connected to this thread. We recovered them from server logs. There was a heavy pause. Someone whispered, "What the hell?" The CTO's face went from neutral to pinched. Derek stood up. "Jamie, you can't just bring private DMs into an all-hands," he said, voice rising. "This is harassment." "Those are company messages about company work," I replied. "You're implying the work is yours, publicly. I have client emails and commits that prove otherwise." Margaret leaned to the mic and said, "These are company communications. We have an obligation to our investors and clients to ensure credit is accurate. We'll be opening a formal investigation." The shift in the room was palpable. Colleagues who'd clapped for Derek minutes earlier now looked at slides with their coffee halfway to their mouths. Some faces were sympathetic. Some were stunned. A few looked actively pleased. Derek tried a pivot, legal-sounding and petty. "This is a smear campaign. You're trying to ruin my reputation," he told the crowd. "Reputation built on lies is still a lie," I said. "We have the artifacts. This isn't drama, it's the record." He snapped, "I'm going to take you for everything you've got." The line landed like an attempt to intimidate. Someone in the front row laughed nervously. The CEO, who'd been fiddling with her tablet, looked up with an expression I'd never seen. Something like regret. "We need to get legal involved," she said. "This is serious." For the next 10 minutes, the room became a tribunal. HR took notes. Legal asked for copies. The compliance team requested server logs. Derek's manager, who'd earlier warned me about being dramatic, stood up and said, "If these logs are authentic, this is a breach of trust I didn't see." Derek's face went from cocky to pale. He tried to spin. "There was collaboration. We worked as a team." A teammate named Anu, who'd been quiet for months, raised her hand. "You asked me to change things and send them to you," she said into the mic, voice shaking. "You told me to clean up Jamie's mocks and you'd present them." The room exhaled. You could feel him shrinking. What happened next was theater and consequence rolled into one. The internal investigation moved at breakneck speed. Within 48 hours, Derek was placed on paid leave pending review. The compliance officer announced revocation of his leadership bonus and a freeze on any promotion pending findings. Our investor relations team asked for a written summary to ensure transparency with stakeholders. LinkedIn comments on Derek's posts turned from congratulatory to suspicious. People cheered quietly, not the performative "we clap for anyone" kind, but an old-fashioned, private satisfaction. The intern who'd once cleaned Derek's coffee spill came up to me and said, "You did the right thing." My hands were still shaking from the stage adrenaline, but there was a quiet warmth in that, like a small victory. There were costs. Derek's allies staged a counter-narrative in Slack, calling it a smear and accusing me of career sabotage. He threatened to sue for defamation. I slept badly for weeks, watching my inbox for the first official timestamped threats. Margaret handled the legal flurry with the calm of someone who'd seen humans build empires on weaker foundations. "Keep the receipts," she told me. "If you file a complaint, maintain your professionalism." 3 months later, after interviews, logs, and client confirmations, the company concluded what Margaret and I already knew. Derek had repeatedly attempted to claim ownership of work he did not create. The findings were public within the company, and a shortened version was shared with our clients to ensure transparency. The outcome: Derek was terminated. He was given a severance package that, frankly, looked generous for the scale of his theft, probably because the company wanted to avoid litigation. He later posted on LinkedIn that he was taking time to recalibrate and took down the champagne picture. His downfall was messy and quiet at the same time. He moved to Bellevue shortly after. A recruiter reached out to me a year later and said, "You should know, Derek's in a few interviews, but he's not getting offers." Word travels. 2 years of lies had cost him a career at a company that valued FaceTime and optics more than they used to. What did I get? Beyond a moral victory, I got better sleep. My manager finally put my name on the project documentation. I got a promotion 6 months later. The company instituted clearer authorship policies, retained messages policies were clarified, and we started an internal training called Attribution Matters. I met someone on a cross-team hack day, Sarah, who later became my partner, and she told me she admired people who'd stand up for fairness. Was I perfect? No. I cried in the bathroom the day after the all-hands. I had moments of cruelty, where I imagined Derek's LinkedIn forever blank and his suit thrown in a dumpster. I feared I'd become weaponized by the moment. I also admitted to myself that I'd been lazy with political navigation earlier. I could have documented sooner, escalated more gently, and avoided the theatrics. But I told myself, sometimes justice requires making a difficult choice. What would you have done differently? Would you have gone to HR earlier? Would you have leaked the messages anonymously? Or would you have kept your head down and let the applause go to someone else? Tell me. Was I wrong for pulling the thread in public? Drop your thoughts below. There are a few things I want you to remember from the whole mess. 1. Document everything. It sounds obvious, but when someone is trying to steal credit, tech doesn't forget. Git blame, server logs, and timestamped client emails are truth magnets. 2. Get counsel. Margaret saved me from saying something that would have cost me my job. Lawyers are boring but necessary. 3. The system isn't perfect. HR isn't always righteous. Sometimes you need allies in cushioned places. In my case, IT, compliance, and one brave contractor who admitted the truth in public. Some people say I should have sued for wrongful termination or taken it further. Others called me petty for turning an all-hands into a tribunal. Was I right? In some ways, yes. In others, maybe not. The point is, accountability happened. Derek got consequences. The team got policies. I got recognition. The company got slightly cleaner. Stats to chew on. 47 deleted messages were recovered. $1.2 million of contract potential. Hung on this feature's perception, 2 years of misattributed work were corrected in less than 3 months once the evidence was public. Those numbers are not just facts. They are the anatomy of a betrayal. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done differently? What boundaries would you draw at work? Tell me I'm not crazy for what I did next, because some people think I went too far. What do you think? If you want proof, yes, I have screenshots and the compliant log exports, but I won't publicly post them. They're on file with legal. The takeaway isn't the receipts. It's that truth matters more than optics. People who build their careers on other people's work tend to crumble when the infrastructure of truth, timestamps, logs, emails, is turned against them. 6 months after Derek left, I walked past his old desk. The monitor was gone. The Armani jacket was gone, but the whiteboard still had a half-erase string diagram. I paused, touched the dry erase marks, and thought about how fragile reputations are. I thought about how easy it was to assume someone else's applause was deserved, and how brave it takes to call it out. If you've read this whole story, drop a comment. Have you ever been stolen from at work? How did you handle it? What's one policy your company should adopt right now to stop this from happening? And if you want to hear more stories where truth wins, where small acts of bravery have big consequences, subscribe and hit the bell. I've got dozens more like this one.